Welcome back to Sports Nightly. I'm Jessica Cootie, and it is time for a May check-in with the University of Nebraska System President, Dr. Jeff Gold. It has been a busy time here over the spring, so we appreciate you finding some time to join us again.
Always a pleasure. Always interesting to talk sports and anything else you want to talk about tonight.
Well, listen, we love the trophies around here, and a big weekend for Husker softball as they claim the first outright Big Ten title in program history. I know you're super proud of this program.
Oh, absolutely. It was a real thrill, actually, to be at Senior Day. Of course, the game was fantastic. Anytime we can do that, it's great news. And then to celebrate with our seniors, and then to have this great surprise for Coach Ravel. And I guarantee you that she had no idea. She and I were standing together on the field when Troy announced it, and she thought it was to celebrate her 1200th, win. And when the tarp came down, naming this the Rhonda Ravel Field, you could just see the tears streaming down her face. It was a very emotional moment for her and for the team. And by the way, extremely well-deserved.
Absolutely. And you guys had to go about it in a certain way, because if Troy was saying if you would have asked her, she would have said absolutely no. So you had to be pretty secretive about it, right?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of planning that was going on. Kudos to Troy for thinking through the ways to get this done. And to do it on that very special, day when she was celebrating the seniors of the team, which is, of course, always a bit of a bittersweet moment to see some of our best players go off, and at the same time to celebrate Rhonda for all the great things she's done. And, of course, season's not over. There are the regionals, the super regionals, and, hopefully be traveling down south with the team at some time.
One last question, because I'd love to get your perspective, because I know you're really close with Coach Ravel. And as a leader yourself, what can you say about her leadership? And I mean, she's one of the best of the best, right?
She is clearly one of the best of the best. The young ladies on the team absolutely love her. She has a great spirit of camaraderie, very high performance requirements, of course. But she brings character. And that's the same character that makes any team successful. I don't care whether it's an athletic team or a leadership team or in the operating room as a cardiac surgeon. It's all about the team, and leadership matters.
Oh, great stuff there. All right, well, there's been some exciting news with the announcement of the Big Red rebuild. We've talked about it a lot here on Sports Nightly, and Troy was on last week. But I'd love to get your perspective on the process and just how important this project is going to be to Nebraska athletics and just the state of Nebraska.
A very important project, and a very important timing for the project, of course. As many people in the community, said to me after the unanimous vote of the Board of Regents to move forward, that this was the worst-kept secret in the state of Nebraska, that this was going to get done. It was just really a matter of the timing. But a lot of respect to Troy and the leadership team and the athletics department for making sure that the details are all there, the sequencing, the timing, to be as respectful as possible of all of the fans that that have rooted on our Huskers for generation after generation after generation. But at the same time, to get this much-needed work done, there's almost $250 million of deferred maintenance work that has to be done. You think about it, there are parts of the stadium that are over 100 years old, and the fan experience needs to be such these days that we obviously need to put a winning team on the field. There's no two ways about that. But we also need an environment that is comfortable and safe and is forward-looking for generation after generation, and that's what the Big Red rebuild will definitely do.
Absolutely, and a pretty aggressive approach. It's not actually going to take very long in the grand scheme of things either, right?
Well, the hope is to have the West Side Bowl done in the first off-season. As you may have seen, some fencing and other things starting to go up around the stadium so we can get as much of that early pre-work done. A lot of the seating is what we call prefab, meaning it's actually made elsewhere and then just sort of bolted into place, with seat backs and cup holders and all of the other accoutrements that are necessary. Going to add some different levels of club experience. And then in the following off season is when the final work will be done on the south, the new scoreboard, which is, I'm told, going to be one of the biggest in the Big Ten, and just to create that unique experience. And you know, one of the things I love to point out about this is the student fan experience is absolutely critical, and there's been a lot of work done with the students as to what they want to accommodate themselves, and you know, where the band is going to be placed and things of that nature, and just to make sure that we continue to have our students actively engaged.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Okay, so shifting gears, I know we've talked a few times about a major event that you've been a part of with the Council on Competitiveness that took place just a few days ago. Why was this such an important conversation, not just for the university, but also for our entire state?
Yeah, so the U.S. Council of Competitiveness is a nonpartisan group of business leaders predominantly that look at areas of economic development and economic competitiveness globally and also in the United States. And this meeting that we held for over 225 people from all over the country and around the world was 6 months in planning to have a series of keynotes, panel discussions, and one-on-one conversations with these national leaders about what we can do, not just here in Nebraska, but nationally on competitiveness in the bioeconomy, specifically in the areas of food production, of course, row crops and protein production, but also in the area of building supplies, clothing, pharmaceuticals, sustainable fuels, things of that nature. And it was a very far-reaching conversation. The first day of the meeting focused predominantly on the breadth and depth of what Nebraska is doing in the bioeconomy competitiveness space. And I will tell you, there was not a single guest from out of town, many of whom have never been to Nebraska before, who said, wow, you know, you guys are leading the pack. I mean, this is the epicenter of economic development in the ag sector for a lot of different reasons. And then the next day was focused on the national efforts and then the global efforts in the areas of bioeconomy and competitiveness. Extremely, you know, I don't think there was a single person who left before the end. And, you know, and I, having the privilege of doing the opening remarks and the closing remarks as we were the hosting institution, it was just an amazing group of people. And, you know, I've got a long list of homework items as a result of the meeting, and that's one of my definitions of any successful meeting, is that I walk out with homework.
That's great. Were there any other big takeaways from the event that our listeners should know about?
Well, I think that one of the things that was so prominent in my mind is that, you know, when you live and work here in Nebraska, you start to take things for granted a little bit. And, you know, I'm well aware of how active we are, the university is in the ag sector, and how successful and how important the ag economy is to the state. What I was not aware of is how far ahead we are in many different ways, and that there wasn't a single person who spoke from the business communities and the economic development side. And I'm not talking locally, but I'm talking on the national level. You know, the council consists of, you know, Fortune 50 CEOs, a relatively small number of university presidents, and the directors of our national lab. That's who forms the council, and we meet officially twice a year in Washington. I serve on the executive committee of the board, which is kind of a fun thing to do. But everybody iterated over and over and over again how important it is to maintain the tight relationship with large universities, particularly land-grant universities such as ours, to be constantly asking the question of what's new, what's next, how can we make the technology better, how can we continue to take a global leadership role in this sector. So it was very reassuring to me to sit there and listen to these discussions about how important higher education is, because, you know, I've always felt that, you know, going back to my very deepest roots, whether it's in healthcare or in the ag sector or in, you know, in engineering, you know, pick your field, innovation and creativity and free thought drives the future. It's what America is known best for. You know, maybe lagging a bit on the manufacturing side due to some of the offshoring, but in terms of the creativity, we have led and will continue to lead. and we need to continue to provide the resources for that leadership across the country and right here in Nebraska.
That's fascinating. Okay, so as we wrap up today's segment, I wanted to touch on another exciting event that recently took place inside Memorial Stadium, the Zach Bryan concert that you attended, I know, and this is going to continue to be a really important part of athletics and generating the revenue and continuing to fund athletics. But how was the event? What did you think of it?
Well, it was a little damp during parts and a good deal of lightning, but, you know, kudos to Zach Bryan and his team. The performance was absolutely amazing. As I understand, there were just over 50,000 tickets sold and over 42,000 people showed up and sang with him in the rain, which was, you know, absolutely amazing. But, you know, a couple of reflections on it. One, it just shows you how powerful it is to bring groups of that size together, and that the role of Memorial Stadium, not just on Saturday afternoons and evenings during the football season, but all year long, is really important. I'm going to be at the Savannah Bananas performance. My grandkids are coming in for that. You know, I don't quite know what to expect, but they do, I can tell you, and they're really looking forward to it. But so the opportunity to bring the community together in that kind of venue is really important. And of course, it's for us, it's economic development. And these are dollars that provide opportunities for the university and for the athletic department that are really very much needed to keep us affordable. You know, at the end of the day, the big thing is the big thing: affordable, high-quality public higher education. Yes, remarkable athletic experience. Yes, bringing home trophies from championships. Absolutely, no doubt. Yes, you know, faculty being recognized by our national academies. But at the end of the day, we are the largest producer of workforce for the state of Nebraska in every economic sector. And we have to make sure that we have an affordable, accessible process that any Nebraskan that wants to continue their education after high school, at any time after high school, whether they're reskilling and upskilling or whether they're a direct transfer, you know, with dual credit and into the university programs, that there's a place for them that they can afford.
Oh, fantastic stuff, as always. Well, you got a busy May coming up, graduation, hopefully a long season left of softball and baseball. So we'll catch up with you hopefully in June to wrap all of it up. And can't wait to talk maybe Savannah Bananas with you as well.
We'll talk Savannah Bananas, and I'll let you know what my grandkids had to say about it.
Well, great stuff as always, and we appreciate your time on Sports Nightly. That is Dr. Jeff Gold here, the University of Nebraska System President, joining us here on Sports Nightly. Got to step aside for a break. More of the show coming up right after this.